Welcome to Conversations in Anarchy. My name is Laura and I'm your host today. On our first episode of Conversations in Anarchy, our Liberpulco team provided rich information on the practical side of the happening, such as description of the venue, transportation, housing, hotels and restaurants around, and touched upon the nightlife and lined up the speakers coming, and also explained what each type of the ticket includes. So if you haven't seen it yet, you might want to take a look. The link is in the descriptions below. But today we have this great opportunity to meet one of our speakers and get to know her better. Dawn Lester, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah.
Thank you. I guess for the general public, you might be best known as the co-author of the book, What Really Makes You Ill, Why Everything You Thought You Knew About Disease is Wrong. Yes. But I know that there's more you're doing and helping other people to make their lives better and to gain more information on how our lives really work and how our thoughts impact our lives. But could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, as you say, I'm probably best known for anyone who has heard of my name for the book, What Really Makes You Ill, Why Everything You Thought You Knew About Disease is Wrong, which came out in December 2019, just before whatever happened in 2020. So yes, I mean, various people may have different ideas about what actually happened, but it was nothing to do with any germs, and that's really a core of the information we've been sharing since the beginning of 2020, that the so-called germ theory has never been proven. The book is about much more than just the germ theory. It talks about all kinds of illnesses. We explore the evidence for what can actually make us ill. We also took a deeper dive into the background of the medical system, into the history, how these ideas have been put together and used as methods of controlling us, not from the point of view of trying to scare people. Quite the opposite, is to say, well, here's the information, and we're being fed information that for the most part is not true. And that's, of course, where freedom lies, is because when you know what you're being told isn't correct, then you don't have to follow the mandates, the measures being rolled out, because you know it's not based on something that's true. So understanding that's not true, we can look at what is true, and that's where the freedom lies. So also the freedom from unnecessary fear. That's not to say to get rid of all fear, but to get rid of fear that is unnecessary, so fear of germs. And because so much of what's going on is about trying to make us fearful and control us so that we do what we're told to do. Again, that's part of what, as you were saying, sort of what I'm doing now, which is to expand that out of the health field and say, well, taking our freedom back over all aspects of our lives, which does involve understanding where our conditioning and our beliefs and our ideas about who we are and what life is about. So it does require us to rethink those kinds of conditioning that we've had through our upbringing. And that it's not against parents, it's because they were taught. So we all learn under this system of increasing control, so our freedoms are even more limited. And that's why it's so important to now just say, no, this has gone too far. It's time for us to reclaim all control over all aspects of our lives, and it does require us to take responsibility and to understand where some of our ideas come from and how we can be stuck in some of our beliefs about who we are, because we think we want to make progress in our lives, and we can hit some kind of challenges and obstacles and don't always know where those obstacles lie. So it's really looking at those and see what the underlying beliefs are. So again, they're often related to some kind of fear or some kind of conditioning when we were young. So it's about releasing the conditioning, and so we can expand our lives and being more free. So that's where if you like, the anarchy comes in. It's not about no rulers, it's or no rules. It's taking control and responsibility for ourselves.
Thank you. You mentioned just now the anarchy and Liberpulco conference where you're coming to talk is, maybe we could call it as a little sister of the Anarchapulco in Mexico that just celebrated its 10th anniversary. Have you ever been participating in Anarchapulco before, or have attended this as a attendee?
No, I haven't actually. It's just the way events turned out. I thought I might have got there this year, but I just with other events going on, it wasn't possible to go there as well. But no, I haven't.
But would you call yourself an anarchist?
Yes, I suppose so. In that in that true sense of living freely. I know I still have certain areas of my life that I'm in the process of gaining greater freedom. So I'm not saying, oh, I've got it all sorted, but that's the approach. It is about living freely, where I'm taking control of my actions and what I'm doing, and taking responsibility and not being drawn into the rules. It's a process, So, but that's my, it's the freedom is the underlying principle for me. So, creating more freedom in my life. So yes.
Yeah, I think that many of the team and many of the audience can relate to this description. I think at least I can. I feel like I am one of those that actually, thanks to those recent events just after your book were published, opened my eyes much more on what's happening around, and not necessarily maybe made my life easier, but once I think you mentioned this on one of your interviews before, that once you see this one opening or one truth, then you cannot just turn away from it. You start to noticing coincidences or the same happening in other aspects of life, and it's just like no way back. And what are you gonna talk about in the Liberpulco? Is it gonna be more about the health aspect that is covered in the book, or is it gonna be a mixture of things? Could you talk more about that?
It's going to be a mixture, because as I said, and you just alluded to the what happened in 2020 opened a lot of people's eyes and got a lot more people, even though it was pretty horrible for a lot of people. It was also an opportunity for many people to start looking and finding out what's going on. And as I said before, it's a lot of what's happening is there are efforts to control us through fear. And fear does actually stop us from thinking critically, from being able to assess and discern clearly and look at what's going on and think clearly. So it's to recognize that that is deliberate, and it's an important aspect of understanding how we can come out of these systems, is to realize that we're being drawn into fear. So it's a mixture of it's about it's called activating the power of the mind. And I'm not talking about the mind necessarily, the brain, the sort of, if you like, the greater mind. So I'll go more into that. But it's how we can take responsibility by not being drawn into fear, and understanding that these agendas, these plans, all the media information is designed to make us fearful, and that doesn't help us. So we can understand how we can bring ourselves out of that fear. I mean, they've the people behind all of these plans and ideas know about human psychology. They know, I mean, we are social beings, which is why part of what's gone on certainly in 2020 and 21, 22, about isolating people, keeping us away from each other, because and making us fear each other. I mean, not some of us who were understanding what was going on, but the general public were made to fear other people. I mean, I remember, because I never wore a mask, walking down the street and people walking into the road to walk around me, which is bizarre. I mean, that the whole thing felt surreal, because they really were putting themselves potentially in harm's way to avoid something that is totally is the opposite of harmful. Because there is nothing, there's no such thing as a infectious disease. I don't have germs I can spread to people, that kind of thing. So that's how much people can be controlled by, because the media was just consistently persistent, day in, day out, 24 hours, just putting out this, fear. And that's, again, as I said, how they control people. So it's how we can take the control back over our own thoughts, and to recognize where we're losing ourselves in patterns of thoughts and ideas that may actually be creating obstacles for us to create the freedom, to create our lives in freedom, which is, what we're all after. Developing not systems, because obviously that, completely new ways of living, new systems, and not one system that's centralized. Obviously, different ways that we're learning about how the body actually works, and we've been made to fear the bodies and other people's bodies, that they can house all these things that we can catch from each other. And so again, that's these ideas. So with the talk, it's to show that we don't have to be fearful of these diseases, if you like, and at the same time to understand what we can do for ourselves. And so when we can take responsibility for our own health, then we can do things that actually support our health and help our bodies, so that we can be more healthy, and we don't have to be fearful, and recognizing the kinds of things that can affect our health, and not to be scared of them, but just to know. So when you know something, you can take the appropriate action. So and tying in, as I say, the power of our mind, to not be drawn into fear, and to understand if we're feeling fear, how to deal with it, and also how we can implement changes by understanding how our thought processes, our habits, and our behaviors. So yeah, that's quite a lot, but that's if you like, an overview.
Yes, I understand, and I can remember that when all these things were starting to happen, and many places, or most of the places, were closed down, I was not following the media, so I had no idea what was happening. But when I noticed people not visiting anymore, the neighbors not talking to each other anymore, or us, it felt I was not sure what was happening and what other people knew, but I just felt in myself that, okay, this is not right. It's really weird, and it's something that is not natural and then not healthy. And I could feel the fear not caused by the media or other sources of authorities, but more like my own fear, like, oh, what is gonna happen, and the fear that I don't know how to call it, like my brain caused, and also still today I can feel this fear of not being good enough, or not being understood, or not being able to do the changes I would like to see in my life. I feel like I myself as a human, I'm kind of going into this freeze where I'm just scared. I feel I cannot do anything. And even these things that I know that I can do good, and I start to doubt myself. And I know that you are having workshops, at least you had one in March this year, where you talk about this topic, the the true power of our thoughts, and that you represent some kind of tools, like practical tools that people can use in practice to deal with themselves, or the mind that is locking them, and stopping from action, and choosing the new ways. Could you tell a bit more about that? How did it go on March, and when the next workshop is coming?
Uh, I I ran 3 workshops, one at the end of January, as well as the one in March, and then one in June. Um, I don't have another one planned at the moment, but they are they all have a similar theme, which is understanding where our fears come from, where our ideas have come from, where our limitations come from, and like with you, with what you're saying about your concerns and your own fears, there's quite often, not always, and so again, it's difficult to make generalizations because it doesn't, the situations don't apply to everyone. It will be slightly different. Quite often, though, there's some kind of circumstance in childhood where, maybe at school somebody, maybe you got something wrong, or somebody laughed at you, or or teachers told you off, or because you got something wrong, or you felt bad because you got something wrong, and so it made you feel like you makes you feel like you are wrong. And there's all kinds of behaviors that can come out of that. So for example, trying and always over trying to be right, and um, being really hard on ourselves if we ever get something wrong, even if it's minor. So there's these ideas stick with us, even though it was just one event in childhood. But because as children, as we're growing and learning, we want to be safe and accepted, because as I said, we're social beings. And so we want that safety and acceptance by others. So we might withdraw certain aspects of ourselves and keep it hidden and pretend to be something else, or do what others want, and not, and again, relates to something you were saying about learning to trust ourselves as well. We're supposed to, because you said you felt something was wrong with what was going on. And so you were listening to your own inner voice saying, this doesn't feel right to me. And quite often we have those feelings, but we don't voice them, possibly because of whatever it is that's going on in the background that says you make mistakes. So we doubt ourselves when we feel this, there's something wrong here. But because we've made a mistake in the past, we think, oh, well, I must be wrong. So we don't trust
And
ourselves.
yes, and maybe if the majority is acting the opposite way than I feel inside of me, then it also kind of is maybe, yeah, provoking to feel like, oh, maybe I am wrong. Maybe everybody else is right and I'm wrong. And why do I feel like this? And
Yes, and that's the thing, that we don't want to stand out again from the crowd. That's a sort of social aspect. At the same time, then we're losing that trust in ourselves, because we're listening to others, or we're joining in what other people want to do, and we're not being true to ourselves. So that's also part of the freedom to recognize who we are and what we are. And we can go into um, the more esoteric part of it, of we are more than just our bodies, who we truly are. Our true nature is more than our physical existence. And the experiences that we have as humans are for us to learn who we are. I mean, in some ways, it's our greatest challenge, to know who we are and what this is about and what we can do. And sometimes, because of that, not trusting ourselves, we don't necessarily take the actions that are that benefit us. But all experiences that we have are for our benefit. And again, we get these ideas that if something is good or bad, and it's right or wrong, there's always this polarity of it's either one or the other, and then that goes out into so many areas where you've got to choose this or that. And in the majority of cases, we don't have to choose either or. If neither of them actually feels right for us, we say, well, I don't choose either. I mean, you can don't want to go into politics particularly, but I mean, we're always given this, it's this or this candidate. You go, well, I don't want to support either of them. But I mean, then that goes into the whole thing of politics and voting and government and all of that. So which we know is put there in front of us to make us think that we have to do these things. And that's, again, as you say, with the majority are falling into these systems. Although I think the numbers of people who are opening up to being more thinking for themselves, thinking more freely, not buying into these systems, or at least recognizing the problems with these systems. There's more and more people. So I think it may be the majority, but I'm not sure that it's such a big majority anymore. I don't know. So, we're in the process of, helping things shift away from this control mechanism, buying into this control mechanism. So I know I've slightly sort of moved off that. So as I say, I don't have the workshops planned at the moment. I probably will create another one somewhat later in the year, in the autumn, though, because they're helpful, and that gives people an idea of what I'm doing, and also the for me is to help people break free of these belief systems that we've been indoctrinated into.
And what would be the channels that you would suggest the people that are more interested in following your work or participating in the next workshops? Which would be the sources they should check?
I'm probably I'm fairly active on Facebook and Instagram. But my work, the work that I share, the writings are on Substack. I have a Substack called Dawn's Writings. And if people subscribe there, then I would share details of any upcoming workshops. People can then register and join through that, so that the links will be there. I'm working on developing a website as well, so that will
But that would be also available on Facebook and Instagram if you would come with a new date.
Yes, I'd share information about workshops on both those platforms as well as my Substack. So yes.
Yes,
as I say,
I will add this in the descriptions as well.
Yes, thank you.
And yeah, I remember on one of your interviews that I was listening to, that you mentioned that there was a time in your life when you kind of had a feeling that you didn't fit in, that you didn't have the right purpose in life, and that that yeah, something was missing. So I would like to ask you, do you feel more complete now? And how long time has it taken since the moment that you yourself realized that the true power of thoughts are influencing our lives? And you and David Parker also mentioned on this interview that this is something that we have to train as a muscle, that or as our skills to meditate. That first time we hear about it and we get very encouraged and very like happy. Oh yes, there's something that I can do, and then we try, and then we fail, and then the previous reactions and actions come, and then we kind of feel discouraged. So how long time has it taken for you to reach a certain awareness and certain proof in your life that, oh, actually this works?
That's a really interesting question. I'm not sure that there was, if you like, a kind of a date that I had an aha moment. It's almost as if it was hidden, and just I was sort of aware sometimes, and then thought, no, just get on with life. Stop complaining and that kind of thing, that with whatever it was, I wasn't feeling fulfilled until the message did get very loud, and I took some actions which took me out of the marriage I was in, and eventually the career I was in, to move into this other direction. So it wasn't a sudden thing, although I was taking different steps. So it is a step-by-step process. And as you say, you try things. I mean, some of the things, once you learn of how your intention, so you can, some of the things, the easy things is when people, say, okay, I'll have a parking space, that kind of thing. So you test yourself with these little things. And sometimes you might not have a parking space. However, I would suggest that we don't use the word fail when we say, okay, there isn't a parking space. It's not like, oh, I've failed, I've made a mistake, oh, I haven't done it, I've done it wrong, whatever. Just say, okay, here's another opportunity for me to learn. And to get to this understanding of who I am has taken years. So it has been a process over, I don't know, probably 25, 30 years, probably. It's not that I'm a slow learner, it's just I've had, various experiences. And when I look at them now, I can see that those experiences are useful for me and inform me. So I can then share those with other people who are struggling now and help them maybe move somewhat more quickly. Not that speed is important, and we'll come to our own realizations. And so it's been a process of creating opportunity or opportunities presenting themselves to me, and then how I perceive them. And we're always on a learning journey. The whole of life is a learning journey. It's not oh, got that sorted, all ticked off, that's it, I'm done. So it is an ongoing process. So I still have opportunities to learn, shall we say, where circumstances occur. And sometimes there's an emotional reaction, and quite often the habit is to give a label to that emotion and say, oh, I'm whatever it is, or I feel, and give it a label. So it's like, oh, this is so a powerful emotion. It's like, oh, I'm angry. Whereas that's just a label. And again, labels limit our understanding of what's going on. So there's there's an emotion. Okay, what's behind that? How do I feel? What has triggered that particular emotion? What's that about? What's behind that? And again, that's where we get to again, pointing my brain, but I mean, that's not where thoughts actually lie. But so we have a thought, and it's holding on to that thought and looking at the words in that thought to see where the belief is, where the obstacle is, where the limitation is, for example. So I'm trying to think of an example. It's yeah, this is like off the top of my head. It's like, I can't think of something. So, but something makes me angry, and then I think, whatever the thought is, I can't do anything about that. Oh, for example, so straight away I've got a phrase, I've got a belief that says I can't do something. Okay, why do I think I can't do something? And again, the I can't and I have to are some of the real stumbling blocks that keep us in what is sometimes described as a victim mindset. And again, being careful, because there are different ways of feeling like a victim, but it's to feel it that you're restricted in some way, that you're not able to do something. So you're limited. So again, listening to the words we use for ourselves, and particularly in our own self-talk. If you do something and you say, oh, don't be so stupid. I'm calling myself stupid. Where does that come from? Was that stupid? No, maybe, yes, I stubbed my toe, it hurt. It wasn't stupid. It was, okay, clumsy, whatever. Okay. But it brings up the opportunity to think, actually, I'm not stupid. It's just, something happened. And you can release that and recognize that there's still this thought maybe of you feeling like you're stupid. And you're, well, am I? It gives you an opportunity to, again, look at it, learn from it, and think, well, is that serving me now to hold on to that belief that I'm stupid, for example? And I'm not saying I am, I'm just giving it's just an example.
Yes,
so
I understand.
It's just these they're not fixed processes or procedures or practices. It's but I suppose that examining our own the words that we use for ourselves, the way we talk, the way we put our thoughts into action, so examining our words to be able to see where our limiting beliefs may be about ourselves, and then see what's behind that, why we still feel that, if it's serving us, and say, well, actually, that's not serving me anymore. I can release that. And sometimes just being aware of, oh, that's because, I was told I was stupid in, whatever it was, some circumstance that no longer, it just isn't what's happening now. That was then. And you go, well, why am I holding on to that feeling from then? Because that was something then. Is that who I am now? No, that's not who I am. So just sometimes being aware of it helps us release these limiting ideas.
And also these beliefs about what really makes us ill. I can notice that it can be really strong even when we are aware of that it might not be the case, like the germs and the viruses. For example, I can share like this one situation, one case, that when this last time when me and my family we were in Mexico, and we spent like a really nice, relaxing, tranquil month with local food, and we were really out of this everyday wheel with work, the stress, and schools, and everything connected with this. And then we came back to Norway, where we currently live, and it was March, but it was still kind of winter, cold and snowy. And we came back to our neighbors and friends that had spent the whole winter in Norway in this wheel with work and school and stress to manage everything, and also probably not so aware about the diet they are having. And so what happened just after we arrived, our daughter visited her neighbor friend, and he was just well from, as we call it here, stomach flu. And his mother actually told me about this. He just had it. Maybe you don't feel so comfortable with your daughter coming to visit us. And I felt like, it's gonna be okay. She can visit him. And then at the same day, this friend's father and the oldest sister, they were not feeling really well, and they had some kind of, as we could call these, symptoms of the stomach flu. But they were holding themselves to their rooms, I was told, and had no kind of connection with the kids. And so she came back, and the next day she visited another friend, and this family was not aware of this neighbor friend's situation, or the illness, as we might say. So they couldn't have this kind of placebo, also thinking that, oh, she is probably bringing us something, since she was in contact. But what happened some days after was that she and her brother and this second friend that had no clue about the stomach flu going around, he and his brother again, they got the, as we would call it, the symptoms. And then our family and this third family, everybody got lighter or heavier symptoms of stomach flu. And if I would just start to tell, no, it's not the virus, it's not the germs, everybody from those families would say, what are you talking about? Look at us, you just had it yourself. How can you say something like this? It's totally absurd. So how would you comment on this kind of situation?
Okay, that's not an uncommon type of scenario that we're often asked about. The first thing is, just because a lot of people are ill with similar symptoms in the same space doesn't prove that it's a virus. It shows that there's something that people are experiencing, people are experiencing similar symptoms. That's what we can say. It, as I say, doesn't prove that there's something going around. That is part of the conditioning that, somebody then passed it to somebody else. And the one thing that many people find unsatisfactory, but that's the case, is that we can't know exactly what it was, and it won't, and that's because there will always be a combination of factors involved. It's almost it's rare that it's only ever one factor. I mean, it's almost always a combination. So the fact that I cannot tell you what caused you all to be ill, and so again, the usual disclaimer, this is nothing I'm saying should be construed as medical advice. So there could well be different causes. Now you're saying stomach flu, so I mean, you did actually share the symptoms of fever, vomiting, and diarrhea. So these are symptoms that indicate the body is expelling something that it regards as toxic. Now, that doesn't mean to say it's, a sort of direct poison as such, but the body says, I don't want this, let's get it out. And that's fairly obvious, from those symptoms, if there's something. Now, it could actually be somewhat different circumstances for you and your family, because you'd been in Mexico. It was all nice, as you said, it was all nice and calm, and eating the local food and everything was fine. And then you're coming back to Norway, back into the normal life. So there's that, I wouldn't say stress necessarily, but it's that factor of, oh, we're back into it. What a shame, the holiday's over. So there's a, that sense of not being as relaxed. So and not being in the sun, and it's cold. So again, the change in the climate may have, back to being cold where you were warm, may have been more of a factor for your family. The other thing to ask is what, and this is possibly a question you won't be able to answer, is that what was actually going on in that area in Norway? Were they, not they, was something being introduced into the environment? Was there, like, is it an agricultural area?
No, it's more like a big village, but not so much agriculture.
Okay, it's just, with agriculture, it could be what farmers are spraying, or, the introduction of some kind of pesticide or insecticide or something into the environment that some of you were more sensitive to than others. So it could have been something within the locality. And as I say, some of these questions are things that you are not going to necessarily be able to answer, because if these sprayings or introduction of some kind of chemical into the area, unless you can actually smell or be aware of it, you wouldn't necessarily know, and they may not be published in the local media, so that I mean, they won't necessarily tell you. So, or was again with the water supply, had they put some extra chlorine or fluoride or something into the water? So again, there's those kinds of situations to consider. And as I say, sometimes you won't necessarily know. I mean, and as I say, unless you know something that was going on, as I say, agriculturally. So, and again, they would be different causes. Again, because it was something that affected the digestive system. So, because you said the digestive system was clearing. Was there something that you ate that was similar? It's, as I say, yeah, I can't know. I can only make some suggestions of the kind of things to look into, but there'll be something in common that your body's all responded to and just displayed those symptoms. And sometimes there's the energetic resonance of somebody expressing symptoms that the people in close proximity may, their bodies may say, okay, well, I can do with having a purge as well. So there's that sympathetic resonance again. So many factors, so many potential factors that could be involved. And as I say, it won't just be one. And this is where people say, oh, well, if it's not a virus, what is it? Because they're looking for that one other thing. And we can't say. Nobody can say, because we don't know. We'd have to look at each individual in each individual and ask them questions that, for the most part, they won't be able to answer, because they don't know what they may have been exposed to. Because it's not just what they're exposed to on that day that then purges. It could be just a build up in the body saying, okay, time for a purge of some description. So the body is always looking to restore homeostasis. And sometimes it gets a bit overloaded, and so these symptoms come out just to help that process. If maybe the normal processes are not quite adequate, because the normal processes, we're breathing and excreting and urinating. I mean, there's their normal process of what is called detoxification. Just occasionally, as I say, the body says, no, I need to do something a bit extra here, just to have a clean out. So again, I know it's called stomach flu. It's just, but it's something that's gone into the system, or that's the way the body has decided to purge whatever the toxins are.
And when we are aware of this, that you just told us, and then we are experiencing different kind of symptoms, and then the question occur, like, what should I do? Should I do something? Should I, like, when there is this, like, for example, my friend asks me, oh, my son has ear ache. What could you suggest me? How could I help him not to feel the pain? And yeah, what should I do? And especially if it's like unpleasant thing, as a stomach ache, or like really strong ear infection or something like this, then what would you suggest to do? Because often, even more when we are aware of these things, that it's not the virus, it's not the bacteria, and then it feels like, oh, I have no point to go to the doctor, because the only doctor I know is gonna suggest me to use some medicine, some pharmaceutical substances, and that's not what I want to do. I want to let my body get well, if it's the cleansing process, but sometimes this can be, especially for the kids, so unpleasant that we feel like, oh, I should do something, I should help them in some kind of way. It's the pain is too much. Is there anything that you can suggest in cases like this?
Well, as I said, I can't give medical advice as such, and I wouldn't. One of the points, the medical systems is their whole system is designed to stop the symptoms, and that's the last thing that we want to do, because that's the body's normal processes. And so it's a question of what is bearable to say, okay, so with children, again, depending on their age, to explain, hey, this is great, your body's healing yourself, instead of being, oh, so, so not going into that fear. So again, this is with a coming out of fear. It's just, oh, that's great, your body's looking after yourself and you're getting better. And instead of take something so you can carry on going to school, say, okay, well, if you don't feel well, then again, rest and keeping hydrated. And if they don't feel like eating, that's fine. And probably best not to eat, because when the body's healing, or when the body's digesting food, then the energy is not going to healing. So when the body wants to heal, it doesn't want it's best not to put the energy, take the energy away to digest. And again, that's quite often children lose their appetite, which is exactly that message saying, don't give me food because my body wants to heal. So again, not forcing food on them at all. So that this is the idea, oh, you need food for your energy. Well, again, this is another, it's coming out of these ideas, these fixed conditions of thinking, this is what we do. Well, rest and hydration and no fear and just wonderful. Your body's looking after itself. And again, with the pain, it depends on the level of, is it bearable? And again, when you said ear infection, I mean, that's again the terminology. Well, it'll be some kind of inflammation, which means the body's clearing something. So we're used to the idea that we shouldn't be in pain, but of course, pain is a message. It's not to stop it, but it's to maybe not try and just suppress it all the time. So it's finding the level that's bearable or not bearable, and there are various ways of reducing the pain somewhat more naturally. I have to say, this is not my field of saying, I know. So I mean, there are homeopathic remedies. There are various natural ways of reducing the pain if it is at that stage of being unbearable. At the same time, if it's just uncomfortable, it's getting used to the idea that there's pain isn't bad, and it's just that getting that level, and again assessing and sometimes it just could be a little bit of fear in a child that makes them a little bit scared. But when you're not coming from a place of fear, and you can give them that reassurance and just just have a rest, get some sleep, hydration, when they feel better, to go outside if it's warm enough, get some sunshine, just let the body heal itself, which sometimes can seem to take a little bit longer, only it's more profound. The healing is more profound rather than just suppressing the symptom, which is actually stopping the body doing the healing. So it'll have to happen again at some later stage, only it'll probably be more intense at a later stage. So as I say, there are natural ways of helping to ease pain if it is at that stage that's really uncomfortable. I mean, I know there are some levels of pain, like kidney stones or whatever, is supposed to be absolutely unbearable. And again, that's a different matter. But in terms of the headaches that sometimes come with what are called flus or whatever, they can be temporary and maybe borne through. And I think we're too prone to just stop any kind of pain. Well, we shouldn't be in pain. Well, a certain amount is okay, and we have to learn our own level what is bearable. But I totally understand that when you've got a child who's uncomfortable, in pain, fever, and all those kind of symptoms, you want to help them. And as I say, one of the best ways is to reassure them and not be in a place of fear of, oh, there's something wrong with you. Just say, it's just a completely different approach. Yes, just to help support them so they're not afraid and they can recognize that their body is looking after itself. And that's of course how we help young people, children, young people learn how their bodies really work, and then they don't grow up in fear.
Yeah, this is really going to be interesting to see how, for example, our kids going to be like when they are adults. But now, unfortunately, we have almost reached an hour of our conversation, and so I would encourage everyone who's watching, or if you know someone who's not watching but would really gain from getting answers to the questions or topics touched in this interview by you, Dawn, I would encourage everyone to come to Liberpulco or follow you on the Facebook and Instagram and Substack. And what I myself can share from my experience when I first came to Anarchapulco was exactly this feeling of belonging. that in everyday life we so often might miss. I have to explain myself all the time. I have to prove that what I'm choosing to do or think or refuse is something actually wise and healthy for myself, despite it's totally against the main or mass media or mass medical establishment suggestions and stuff like this. It's like this fresh breath of being surrounded by the people that actually have the same feelings, or like you and the other speakers, I believe, have a bit more of a knowledge. Okay, how can we move towards this reality, or this possibility, for example, in how we can react to pain or symptoms that are not so pleasant. And so yeah, thank you so much for the interview. I have been very inspired while I was getting ready and following you on some previous interviews and stuff. And after this interview, I really feel like it would be so great to meet you in person, and that's what is possible at Liberpulco quite soon in September already. Is there any last wishes or suggestions or anything to our audience that you would like to end our discussion with?
I think we've pretty much covered it. It's to understand that we're all in the process of learning what life is about and what we can do, and how we don't have to listen to other people at the same time. We are still, as I said, social beings, so we interact with people. It's to understand how we choose to interact with other people. So again, the principle of being thoughtful, mindful of our words, being considerate of other people, and at the same time being confident in who we are and trusting ourselves. So there's always this mix of coming from a place of being who we are without imposing that on other people. So again, it's our interactions and how we help other people. So it's not just to tell other people what to do, because if we don't want to be told what to do, we aren't telling other people what to do as well. So it's an ongoing process, and I'm very much looking forward to meeting you as well. And Liverpool, it's also a virtual event as well, isn't it? That they'll be running.
Yes, it's possible. It's possible to buy a virtual ticket.
Yeah, so people who aren't actually able to travel to Serbia will be able to buy a ticket and watch it online. So that's fantastic.
Yes, that's what's been really fantastic about the Anarchapulco, since it's so far, for example, for us that live in Europe. And also it's going to be this opportunity during the Liberpulco that people that for various reasons cannot come in person can actually follow and be a part of it. Yes, it's going to be possible.
That's excellent. Thank you.